So coming out this far offshore, we don't take this lightly. We're very careful about our planning and prep. We carry a lot of safety equipment. Our skis are serviced regularly for a start, so we know they're reliable. Safety equipment we have, obviously the legislated, the mandated safety equipment that you're supposed to carry legally, which is very minimal actually. It's basically flares, V-sheets, maybe bailing bucket I think, and of course we're more than 2 nautical miles offshore, so we have to carry either an EPIRB or a PLB, personal locator beacon, which I have a personal locator beacon here. It's got a test circuit. I check it every month, make sure that it's working. It has an expiry on the battery, so you keep on those as well. Like your flares, flares expire, so you need to make sure you've got those. The other things that we do for safety is I use a volunteer marine rescue app called SafeTRX, SafeTRX, volunteer marine rescue app, and I can log in before I leave the ramp with a approximate, estimated time of arrival back at the ramp put in. So today I put in 4 p.m. I'll probably be back before then. And you can make a mark from where you start, obviously at the ramp, and where you finish will be at the same ramp, but you can also make a waypoint mark, and I made one out here at the Barwon Banks just to give them some idea if it all went pear-shaped. At least they have an idea of where we actually were fishing, and through the currents could work out. Also, of course, VHF radios. Every one of us are carrying either a handheld radio or an installed VHF radio. So mine's 25 watt. I might have touched on this before. The reason I've got a 25 watt is I do tend to go quite a distance on my own, and with the 25 watt radio I can be in contact with, again, volunteer marine rescue throughout. I can pick up Tin Can Bay I'm in the Sunshine Coast today. I can pick up Tin Can Bay, which is 2-3 hours drive north of here, and I can pick up the Gold Coast Seaway and other VMR radio locations around here. A handheld VHF radio offshore is not really adequate. If it's just 2 guys, yes, but you're not going to be able to contact shore. They might have about a 5 kilometre maximum transmission distance, so they're not really ideal, but it's better than nothing. Of course, carry a mobile phone as well, and you do get a signal up to probably about 20 kilometres offshore, so it is helpful. And sometimes you come in signals, the signal goes a little bit, and you might receive text or be able to send a text if things go pear-shaped. Off the shelf, some skis are a little bit unstable, particularly if you put an esky on the back of them, and a high mounted esky with a bit of ice in it does change the centre of balance quite a bit, and they do get a little bit more wobbly. So if you're coming out for the first time, just pay attention to your load distribution. Try to have weight down low. If you're carrying extra fuel, put the weight down low. That sort of touches on another point, fuel. This is the first time we've come this particular location, and it's around about 40 kilometres off the river entrance that we've come out of. And we had a look on a couple of apps to work out the distance that we're travelling. We know roughly our ski consumption on FXHO, and I would allow around about 2 kilometres per litre. So I'm going to consume 20 litres to get out here, which we did. We did a few little detours, and when I arrived, I think I did about 22 litres. That's 40 kilometres line of sight, well, as the crow flies, so to speak. We did a few diversions, and we've been coming up and down, so up and down the coast a little bit to get to a spot here. So yeah, fuel is very, very important. Now, one thing I'd also touch on is that some skis are very difficult to fuel on the water. The FXHO is probably one of them. A friend up the road there is out with us today, Paul. He's got a Sea-Doo which has a very similarly placed fuel filler cap, and he said, having to lean over the front and put it in was in this sort of swell. It's going down a bit now, but having to lean over the front, put the fuel in was very tricky, and he said he spilt about 5 litres. So just be really, if you've got to refuel on the water, know what you're doing for a start. Know that you can get to the fuel cap and get it in there. Maybe you need a bigger funnel, or you might need some sort of siphoning system to get it in. In the case of this ski, I think I've touched on this before as well. I have a second fuel tank. It's sitting on top of the standard fuel tank. The standard fuel tank is 70 litres. I think that's 18.5 gallons from memory. The standard skis tank is 70 litres, which sometimes it's very hard to get it right full to the top. But my auxiliary tank is another 27 litres. So I figure that I've filled up both as much as I could. I think I'd have at least 90 litres. So I'm counting on a 90 litre day today, and that gives me a lot of kilometres, around about 180 kilometres I should be able to get. So as I said, plan the trip. Safety. The other thing past safety, to make it safe, is of course the weather. Now we're not going to come out here if it's like 15 knots or more generally. Today, the weather report was under 10 knots all day. And yet, when we got out here, as I said, it's quite a distance offshore. The wind actually came up to about 10 to 15, and at one stage, I reckon we've got the full 15 knots. It was quite uncomfortable, and that's when one of our friends got seasick. So bear that in mind, that just because the weather report in your coastal town is saying XYZ wind knots and swells and etc., it can be stronger offshore. In Australia, I use the METI app. It's from our Bureau of Meteorology. METI, METEYE, and it actually looks at the weather forecast for different times of the day. So you can actually go in at 4 a.m, 7 a.m, 11 a.m, such etc, etc, and you can look at what's happening with the wind. And if it's it not only tells you what the wind is going to change throughout the day, and it's pretty accurate. It's not nothing's ever fully accurate, but it's fairly accurate. But it also shows you where the wind can change at a particular point offshore. So, I saw that it was going to be 10 to 15 knots out here, past, a good 15 kilometres offshore today. So, I was ready for it. So yeah, look, the other thing, you coming offshore for safety, keep an eye on your friends. It's quite easy to drift away from them, and at the moment I'm drifting away from them. They're a good 500 metres to my north here. Keep an eye on them. You've got your radio, of course, to communicate with them as well. So if anything goes wrong, if something happens to me, I'll get on that radio as soon as I can and try to get in touch. There's another app in Australia called Willy Weather. It sort of takes the Bureau of Meteorology's reports and puts it into a small app you can have on your hand phone, your mobile phone. And it's pretty good, but it doesn't update as much as METI. So it gives you an overview picture of what's going to happen during the day. Don't count on it that exactly at 9 a.m. it's going to do exactly what it says. It's never that accurate. It does update at various times of the day, depending on, I think it's consistently the same time of day every day, but only twice a day, whereas METI is probably every 3 hours. So the other thing I would look at was the swell. Look at the swell direction against the wind. If you've got wind with swell, you're going to have a big current. We've got a 1 knot current today. It's not too bad. If we had a 3 knot current when we went off shore at between Moreton and Stradbroke on that last trip. 3 knots makes it pretty uncomfortable for fishing, but we managed a few fish that day. Just change your techniques, vary the techniques, I guess. The other thing is water. Food. I just had my lunch. I was starved. I left home at about 3:30 in the morning this morning, so I didn't eat after. I had a quick breakfast, something light, got up here, and I haven't eaten until just recently. So that's almost it's almost 8 hours now since I had my little breakfast. So you can see why you can get hungry. Carry water. I've got frozen bottles that I use to keep the fish. So if I ever get, just say I broke down and I was floating around here, I'm not going to run out of water. I've got about 4 litres or 5 litres of water there. So I'll be able to go a few days, I reckon, if I ration it. But yeah, water is always a good thing to carry as well. So look, you might think I'm going overboard here, but look, we do these trips, on our own sometimes. People might think we're mad, but we are very well prepared. We know the weather. We don't rely on chance with the weather. We use the apps, and we feel very safe when we're offshore. So hopefully you will too. One of the, as I always say, one of the things that stops people fishing on a ski and catching the good fish is going to the places they want to go to. They want to fish at certain places. The big fish will be in the slightly deeper water. Not always. You can catch some pretty big fish in shallower water, depending on the place and the country, I guess. But we find, 30 metres, 50 metres, 80 metres, we're catching some of the bigger fish. And today, my first drop of the day was a nice 90 centimetre amberjack. So that's about a 10 kilogram fish, something like that, maybe 8 kilogram fish. That's really done me for today. I've got my fish that I wanted, but I'm having a bit of fun now trying to catch some other stuff. So that's it for now. Hopefully you've learnt something from that, and hopefully it'll give you a little bit of confidence as well to go offshore on your own or with a group. I'd recommend a group.